So this is the Endorphin's Black Noir. This is a 7-voice analog drum machine with digital effects and a DJ style kind of isolator filter. So we've got high pass to the right and low pass to the left. So all of the percussion shares the same kind of noise source, and that can be kind of more noisy, kind of, or kind of more pitched. And then we can essentially kind of bit crush that. So we've got our kick drum, which has quite a wide range from 40 Hertz all the way up to 100. And depending on where you are in the range, you get a longer tail. So open that up, you'll hear as I go up, we get more tail in the higher ranges of the kick drum. So the same controls for the snare drum as well. So tail and tune. The tuning of both of these is on these tiny little trimmer pots, which are a little bit irritating, but generally I suppose you would probably just set them and then forget them. As I said before, the noise section is just controlled by these two. You can get a really nice smack on the snare with a bit of this spoiler. Also, I found that just adding a touch of the resonance when we're in the middle on the filter here gives you a lot, pushes those kind of high end frequencies through a little bit more, kind of balances out the drums a bit better in my opinion. So then we've got this clock input, which is really useful. Clock input basically allows you to do rolls with a clock source. So I'll just do it with a straight clock here. So I've got a straight clock coming from Pam's here. So then you can hold any of these and get a roll from this clock source. So it doesn't need to be just a straight clock. I take this Euclidean sequence here. So you can put whatever you want in here to create those fills, which is quite nice. This also clocks a sample and hold circuit. So I'll just do that again. I can take the output of this sample and hold and use that to modulate something else. So now I'm using it to modulate the bit crush. This becomes an attenuator of the incoming control voltage. Same with most of the controls, all of the CV inputs. Once you put a CV in, the knob then becomes an attenuator of that CV, which is quite useful. All of the drums have also got a velocity input, which is really useful for creating a bit more dynamic control of some of these drums. So we've got that tambourine. Just put this LFO in there, just pushes it in and out, which is really quite nice. Done the same thing with this control voltage on the hi-hats, but I've put this through an offset, so it's just pushing it a bit further into the right range as I wanted it, so that I'm always hearing a bit of the hi-hats, and this is just kind of going to vary that up and down a bit, which is quite nice. And that's really where this drum machine kind of comes into its own with these velocity inputs, because it really does add a lot of dynamic control over the sound. And also having these two knobs just for the for the noise source is really nice, because you just settle on those are my drum sounds, and now I can vary all of them with a couple of knobs turns. So and things are quite opposite, so this sound becomes more noisy once we move this around from pitch noise down to. So you can get these kind of nice varying drum sounds just from one single sound source, and I actually really like that. The filter sounds really nice. Even with a lot of resonance, we don't get any bass roll off. So yeah, overall, really nice drum sounds. So let's move on to some of these effects, because the effects are really what sets this apart from any other kind of drum sounding voice. And there's 8 to go through, so there's a lot. So let's have a look at this gated reverb functionality, which is the first effect on the effects bank. At the moment we've only got the snare, which is going to the reverb. So this is my decay. And then if we hold tap, you'll see that light flash. Now this is the threshold. So we've got a massive reverb, and then this is the threshold. So let's have a look at the spring reverb setting. So this is the second type of effect that we have. So we've got dry wet here, and on our first function of this knob, we've got the decay. So let's just hear the beat. Just something simple. Everything is being sent at the moment. This is our dry wet, so, and we've got a really short decay, which is quite nice because you can't do that with a proper analog spring reverb. You can't shorten the decay. The decay is just as long as the spring is. So this beat's being sequenced by the Digitact and the Mutant Brain. And we can go from kind of small to absolutely endless. And you could just have it kind of sitting there, kind of doing its thing at the back. Now the tap function creates an excitement of the spring. So if we just reduce that down and increase the dry wet here so you can hear it. And then when we tap, we get a short kind of burst or swell of kind of reverb. Like so. Now, the decay of this tap, or like swell amount, excitement as they call it in the manual, can be controlled by the secondary function. So if we go to our secondary function, now it's quite short. Now if we open this all the way, it's a much longer swell. So you can hear that the reverb is really nice and kind of fulsome, as Nick would say. And yeah, we can get a lot of tones out of it. So So the next effect is the ping pong delay. Bit of bass coming in here. So at the moment, let's just do it, just the snare. This is my dry wet. My feedback. Now, we can either just tap the tempo without a clock, or we can put a clock in. Now when we hold our tap button, go to the secondary function, this then becomes a division of that incoming clock. So let's have a look at the flanger effect, which is the fourth effect in the effects bank. This sets my delay time. And the first function of this knob is the rate. Everything is being sent. Quite nice if we just have some of the percussion going. And then the secondary function is our feedback amount. So that we've had it at 100% because that's what it is initially, but obviously we can make it a lot kind of more subtle. So let's have a look at the ring mod effect. This is my patch. It's a bit more of a kind of like bass and percussive patch as opposed to like a full drum pattern. And I'll talk you through what's going on. So at the moment we've got just the kick and the snare being sent to the effect. This is my effect amount, or ring modulation amount. This is the pitch of the oscillator, which is being sequenced via the sample and hold, internal sample and hold circuit, which is being clocked by the kick drum, which is why it's almost more like a bass than a kick drum pattern. But so if we take that out, we can hear that that's a static ring modulation oscillator. And then if we go to the secondary function, this is feedback. So let's have a look at this overdrive effect. Okay, so that's my beat. Switch the kick into the overdrive. So in this effect we don't have a secondary function of this knob, we just have a bypass switch. So at the moment it's bypass, so I can unbypass that. This is my tone of the overdrive. Obviously once we overdrive it quite a lot, we get increase the noise floor obviously. Even at really kind of high, for a digital distortion, you don't get any kind of aliasing effects. So let's just have a look at the compressor, which is the 7th effect in the effects bank. So we've got everything being sent to the compressor. This is our threshold, this is our ratio. And then we can do the attack on this second. So that's quite a slow attack now. It's kind of an auto release and an auto gain function. If we do increase the you get it to kind of clip and go ridiculously overcompressed once we get the ratio right up there. Or we can really kind of squash stuff to nothing really. But lots of kind of compression effects are available. And we've also got a sidechain input, so we can use the CV input down here as a sidechain for the compressor. So in this example, we're going to be showing off the looper functionality. So what we have here is a kind of grain looper. So basically this controls the speed of playback. So in the middle, we're going to get the original kind of speed. And then this controls the direction and the size of the grain that we're going to be playing back. So if we start the beat, I've got some other stuff going on just to let you know. We've got a bass line from another module within my system, the Akemi's Taiko, and then we've got the cymbal and this kind of this thing being processed through clouds. So you can just hear a bit of that there. So yeah, let's just start that. So back to the freezer functionality. So this is now the smallest grain that we can play back. And we can start to lengthen the grain as we go round. But we're still playing back at the original tempo. So if we want to slow that down, we go this way and we can go up to a division of 5 of the original speed. and then we can start to increase that. And then all the way up to 5. And then obviously we're playing a forward grain at the moment. We can reverse the grain by going anti-clockwise on this knob here. Now, if we put a gate into here, we're going to basically perform this kind of this tap function, and we can vary the CV with a control voltage in here. So overall, I'd have to say I do really like the Endorphin's Black Noir. It has some really nice features, and I think they've done a really good job of making a classic sounding drum machine that isn't a 909 or an 808, because let's not forget it is based on a CR78, so it does have some kind of classic heritage, but with the effects, the filter, the bit crusher and stuff, we do get a lot more than a normal CR78. Obviously we don't have a sequencer on this, which I think kind of works to its favor, because as it fits into the Eurorack kind of ecosystem anyway, you're already used to using your normal ways of sequencing your Eurorack. So you can just apply those to the Black Noir and create your own kind of more interesting drum patterns, or more kind of playable drum patterns. And I think that's kind of one of the things that Eurorack really excels at anyway, is kind of connecting up all these different kind of clock dividers, rhythm generators and stuff like that, and creating kind of patterns that you necessarily wouldn't create on a kind of 16-step or like a standard kind of Zox style, Roland style drum sequencer. So yeah, it's 439 UK pounds. But yeah, overall I think they've done a really nice job, and I think the amount of CV and connectivity that they've given it is really nice. It's kind of a nice balance between having a solid drum track and also being able to modulate it with various different Eurorack modules. So yeah, I think the Black Noir is a really nice drum machine, and I think if you're looking for something that's going to add a drum track to your productions without kind of breaking the bank, or without having to learn new sequencers and stuff like that, I think this is a really nice option. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that one.